This is Chris Morton, and you're listening to The Recovery. Hi guys, so in this episode I'm going to cover things that I've changed to improve my sleep and performance in my training since using the Whoop band. So I've had the Whoop band for about, I think, 8 or 9 months now. So if you don't know, there's this thing called Whoop. It's basically a band that you wear on your wrist, and it will track things like your sleep, other things like your daily strain, so how much strain you're putting on your body each day. It will also it'll give you a recovery score based on a few different factors, which I'll cover a bit later. Also, it'll show you actually how many calories you're burning each day. But there's one thing I'm going to highlight, in this episode, is the HRV, and how I actually, out of everything, really monitor the HRV to see. So it's tracking all these things, and one thing it tracks is HRV. But then I guess that's all good and well, but unless you actually know what all the data means and actually start analyzing what all the data means on a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis, month-to-month basis, it's really no point even actually wearing the strap. So, in this particular episode, as I mentioned, I'll go through how I actually use the HRV, probably as one of my biggest indicators, basically to make a call on whether I should train or not train, or if I'm due for a rest day, and I actually feel like training, and my body's and my HRV and all the other factors are saying that you're good for it, then actually train, or whether that I have time in my day to train, but my body is telling me, and also all the data points in the Whoop app are telling me, especially the HRV, that hey mate, maybe you're best just to rest today and get some recovery in. And then probably I'll recap with everything of how, since using the strap for 6 months, what things I've tweaked or changed in my, daily routine to help me get better sleep, to get a better HRV score, and to ultimately, when I'm training, to actually perform at a greater intensity to help get myself fitter, moving better, and all those things, and just feel better. So I'll just cover what heart or HRV is. It stands for heart rate variability. So I never actually even knew what a HRV was until I started wearing the Whoop band, and even wearing it for a few months, I actually just ignored the number, didn't really understand what it meant. I would probably more look at how much sleep I was getting and how much recovery I was getting, and sort of basing, on those two things, whether I should train or not. And it's so with HRV, what that is basically is your heartbeat, or the time between each beats. So your HRV, in one sequence might beat every 0.9 seconds. In another period, it might beat every 1.5 seconds. And that variability in your heart is good. The more that it's varied, the higher HRV score you're going to get. And when it's closer together, it's more your body is starting to need more recovery. And so behind the scenes of that is that your body goes through two states. It goes through a sympathetic state and a parasympathetic state. A sympathetic state, I can't even say the word probably, sympathetic state and a parasympathetic state. So in your sympathetic state, that's basically in your fight or flight mode. So when, most generally, like if you're in your workout, you're working out, you're going for it, or there's a bit of stress in your life, and or you just had a shot of caffeine or something that's really, it's getting your body going, your heart rate's going, which is okay and that's good and you want that, but you don't want that all the time. Then there is your parasympathetic state, which is where what that is doing is regulating your rest and digesting of food, and you need that also in your your day-to-day life, so you can actually recover from stressful situations or from your training, which is putting stress on your body. So you need these two systems working together, and sometimes one can take over the other, and it's usually the one where the sympathetic state's really taking over, and that's what starts dropping your HRV score down. So that's, I guess, a bit of the science behind it all. So what HRV is actually doing, it's tracking the go between those two states, and the more that you can get them both working together equally, then the better you're going to go between being nice and recovered and feeling good and happy, and then really primed for a heavy workout and going back into feeling good and recovered. If you're always working out hard, super stressed, then your HRV is just going to drop because your heart rate's it's always pumping. It can never relax and start to you get more recovered for yourself. So once you actually understand what HRV is, then when you got the Whoop app, you start to get a daily score of your HRV, and it's going to be a range. It's going to go between a low end and a high end, and based on I guess how old you are, whether you're male or female, some other factors like that. That range, like if you're in your 20s, that range might start be a higher number from the low point to a high point. But if you're someone like me, you're in your 40s, it's going to be a lower number, but it's going to go between two numbers. So what I've found with my HRV, that it will bounce up and down day to day between being on the higher end, which is getting more towards a 40 score, and a lower end, which is more like a 30 score. And what I look for is maybe trends in that HRV. So if I see maybe like a downward trend where each day I'm training or there's something happening in my life, I'm not sleeping very well, that HRV score is getting lower and lower and lower. And that's starting to indicate to me that I'm starting to get maybe run down. Maybe I've been training really hard, I'm due for a rest day. So these are all the things that I start looking for, and vice versa. If I start seeing it trending up, I know that, all right, I must be doing a few things where I'm recovering quite well now, and my body's signaling to me that whatever training is coming ahead, that I'm probably going to be pretty good to go. So now that you know that what the HRV is signaling to you, and you can read it, how do you actually get a better HRV? And that's where I guess I've come to right now after 6 months of using Whoop and looking at the HRV. It's like, all right, now that I understand what HRV is and how it's going to assist in my recovery and training, what are some ways I can improve that HRV, or improve, basically what I'm saying, how can I better improve my performance in my training and then recover, and just going back between those two states. So there's some pretty straightforward ones, but some that things that you'll know, but and you don't actually need the Whoop app for this. This is something that you should be doing anyway. So number one is just being hydrated. I probably don't drink enough water. So just, and that actually starts affecting how your body feels. It has a negative impact if you're not drinking enough water. And that's obviously going to affect how your heart is pumping, going between those two states of being in the the sympathetic state and the parasympathetic state. If you're really dehydrated, everyone knows how you feel when you feel dehydrated. You just really want to recover. And if you're sort of like just slowly, not over time, just always a bit, dehydrated, or you're not drinking enough, that's gonna, make it harder to recover. So just drinking enough water is one way, an easy way to start boosting your recovery. Number 2 is better sleep quality. So when I first threw on the whip strap, I was always actually looking at my sleep. If I had a really poor night's sleep, then that's really what's affected my recovery score. It's not always the case. So if I've trained for maybe 3 or 4 days in a row and even slept with almost 100% sleep quality, I can still have a downwards trend in my HRV, basically because they're just sleep and drinking water are just 2 factors in the HRV. There's actually a whole other bunch of factors that I actually might not be up to par and really lacking in those areas, and that's actually contributing. So it's almost like you got to tick off the boxes. It's like, all right, so I tick off the first box, I'm going to drink enough water each day. The next box to tick off is having better sleep, and you can actually track that with the Whoop app. If you're sleeping about 5 hours a day or at night, generally it's probably not enough. You're probably going to need between, as an adult, between 7 to 9 hours is what they suggest. But you can dig a little bit deeper again into how much deep sleep and REM sleep is within that sleep. Like you can be in bed lying down, but you're in a really light sleep. That's not super good quality sleep, but it's still classed as sleep, and the Whoop app will actually record that as sleep. It's easy if the Whoop app's telling you you're just not getting enough sleep on average. That's gonna drive the HRV down and your recovery score down. But if you're ticking that box, all right, I'm getting enough sleep. Maybe you're getting 90% plus sleep in a week. Then it's not sleep that's holding you back from recovery. So the third one might be the quality of your nutrition. So it's interesting how your nutrition or the diet that you're having is going to affect your recovery, and the Whoop app will consider that as well. I guess some things to avoid that I try to start avoiding to help recover better is avoiding eating a really big meal close to bed, or like heavier foods really close to your bedtime. So you want to have your meal time maybe around that maybe 6 p.m. mark, and then you'll be going to sleep at 9 o'clock at night. So you've got enough time. You don't have all that digesting happening while you just go to sleep. Is eating too many processed foods with high amounts of sugar, which I can be guilty of now and again. I always know that the more that I eat better, like more whole foods, that I just feel better within myself. But it's your body definitely feels different when you eat too much sugar. If you eat a big chocolate bar every night or a big block of chocolate, you probably feel good while you're eating it, then you feel terrible moments after, like an hour after. So what I've been always try to do, and you don't need the Whoop app to know this, is to try and eat more whole or organic food options, perishable foods, high sort of lean protein, vegetables, pretty much that paleo type diet, and maybe the 80% of the time, you got to give yourself a bit of a break here and there and try and eat foods that you like with a bit of sugar in it. Also, the timing of your foods is going to help. If you do a workout, it's really good. There's a window there where you can get some high quality carbs and protein in after working out. That's going to replenish your body as well. Also, if you're eating enough or overeating as well, these factors are going to sort of go into your HRV and recovery score as well. Number 4 is limit alcohol. Alcohol, there's actually been a number of studies, I think, with Whoop and people who show up to 5 days after drinking alcohol, or, probably having quite a few drinks, that their HRV score doesn't start to recover to up to 5 days after a drinking session. So that's almost like a whole week of training where your body is still trying to recover from that heavy drinking session. So yeah, it's one of those things that you can easily limit or totally cut out alcohol. Personally, I don't drink anymore. I'll probably only drink socially and occasionally. So yeah, alcohol is just one of those things it's definitely in Australian culture, in social culture. But I think as you get older in life, you become more mature. People quite understanding if one of your choices is to not drink in life. People can accept that, but maybe if you're more in your teenage to 20s years, a lot of peer pressure, those big drinking sessions. But then you can also get away with it when you're younger as well. But if you're a bit of an older athlete, then cutting out alcohol is probably going to be like a quick win, just to improve your recovery. And so another thing that's going to help improve your HRV score, just recovery, is actually just start implementing other recovery strategies within your week. And this one I definitely know works, and when I stop doing them, I know my body starts to feel a bit tighter overall. I don't feel like I'm moving as well. So one thing that I try and do once a week is one of these recovery options, and one of them is a massage or doing hot and cold therapy in the hot and cold therapy pools at least once a week or once a fortnight. Really helps get you back into that parasympathetic state where you can start to boost recovery. That's really good. Also, just taking rest days and stretching. So I'll stretch almost every single day. I'll, without fail, stretch after a workout. Generally, I'll stretch what muscles were used in the workout after the workout, and then I'll do some global stretches or activation before and after the workout that are my problem spots. That being my shoulders, my thoracic spine, my hips. Those three things that over time, with constant activation, strengthening, and stretching, mobility work, really starts to pay off. Another thing I've actually started doing is also breath work, which again start to trigger you back into that parasympathetic state. So the breath work that I've been doing is the 4-7-8 technique. So I will breathe through my nose, keeping my mouth a little bit open for a 4 count. So in for 4 seconds, then I'll hold my breath for 7 seconds, and then I'll slowly exhale, breathe out for 8 seconds, and try and do that at least 5 rounds. Not necessarily back to back straight away. I might try and do that over even just 5 minutes of doing that. And I find that actually even starts helping in my workouts, just actually focusing on my breathing. Like when I'm going through reps, is to keep breathing through the workout, and that's just helping helping your body start to recover as well, start to get back into that parasympathetic state. Some other things you might do is meditate. Like I don't meditate. I'm not into meditation so much. Maybe yoga, do salt baths at home. Maybe if you have the opportunity to take naps. Maybe you can't take a nap through the week if you're working, but maybe on the weekend you can have an afternoon nap. that can help just start to, basically it's just trying to relax the body, and that can help start recovering. So another good way is just over time is just to start implementing some of these strategies to help boost your HRV score if you're using the Whoop app, or just to help boost your recovery. Is to try just say maybe in week 1 of just say like you just start, all right, I'm going to try and come up with a plan to start recovering better, even if that's just your goal. Is just try to use 3 weekly recoveries strategies in the first week. So maybe that's a bit of breath work one day, and maybe 2 days later you might take a massage, and maybe 3 days later you might what's another recovery strategy? Maybe you'll take an afternoon nap. Then maybe in week 2, then you might start to have a goal to try and sleep at least 7 hours a night. Maybe you on average are sleeping under 6 hours a night. Just try and get it to that 7 hours a night, and also try and actually go to sleep at the same time and wake up at the same time each day, which you can also do with the sleep coach with the Whoop app as well. And when your body starts to get into that rhythm of waking, going to sleep and waking at the same time, that also helps. And then aim to eat the proper amount of calories that you need to do the training that you're doing, which you can see, like I've noticed that with my calories, I average a calorie burn of 2,250, or at least in this week. So I'm always around about that 2,000 to 2,300 calorie burn mark. So then I can have a look at my food and make sure I'm getting enough calories, and I'm just trying to make them of the highest quality that you can. I try and have, in each meal, I just try and have some protein, some sort of carbs, and then a little bit of fat. I find I eat probably a too high fat diet, so the more I can cut out fat in my diet, I think the better. So yeah, they're things that I've noticed since wearing the Whoop app, is that I've really got into monitoring the HRV score, and I'll look at that as to how I'll consider when to take rest days, or when I should really maybe even take it just a little bit easier in the workout, and not go to like absolute highest intensity, and also know when I should actually push it. There's been times where I've mentally felt not that particularly good, and I knew this workout was coming up, but my body was telling me, well, the Whoop app was telling me that you slept really well, your HRV is really quite high, you're actually really good to go. And actually when I get into the workout, it's just been a mental thing, and I've actually performed really, really well, because it was just in my head for whatever reason. I just wasn't up for that workout of the day, but I was able to get through it. And vice versa, there's been times where I'll be like, I'm free today, I could work out, I've got the time, but maybe it's like my 5th day of maybe training. I've been sleeping really well, but my HRV is just starting to plummet. Maybe I'm starting to get a bit of a tickle in the throat. That's when it's like, maybe it's just best to try and recover and get your body ready for the next week of training. So yeah, I hope that helps anyone who's never actually seen or used the Whoop strap before and wants to sort of maybe take their training and recovery to the next level. It's a really good way to track everything, and also then once you start analysing the numbers, understand the numbers, you can start forming a strategy on how to improve your recovery and performance.